Greetings, members, one and all of the Salivation Nation, with an interesting article here from Market Watch, which I like Market Watch because they do tend to they do bring some opinion, but also some news that seems to be more balanced. But nonetheless, we'll always recognize bias where we see it, and we want to try to understand it and review it as such. But thanks to Alan 30189. He sent me this interesting article here from Market Watch. Silver's primed to take the spotlight from its metal peers. So let's delve into this. After the 15% price drop, investors would be unwise to start selling at these levels. So yes, and that's upon that little sub headline, we can say, and I think most of us would agree, that really it's not, whenever prices are low, that's the worst time to sell. You want to sell when prices are high, if at all possible. And of course, I've talked about this on my channel before, where unless there's a time where you need to sell, and there's times where when the prices are rock bottom, and if you're in financial hardship, needing to sell is something that it needs to take into consideration. But the best option is to try to position yourself in such a way that you don't need to sell your precious metals. But nonetheless, that is what they're there for, to protect you in times of personal hardship, as well as national or regional or world hardship. But nonetheless, the article goes on to say that as gold fails to find much having support despite a volatile stock market, and palladium prices hit record highs, silver prices sit close to the lowest level in nearly 3 years, down 15% year to date. Hence why we're seeing this wide gold to silver ratio. Silver hasn't garnered the same attention as its peers in the metals market, but it deserves a second look. Investors might be too bogged down looking at the macro environment when assessing silver's worth, but silver is actually a hybrid metal, part investment, yet extensively used in a wide and increasingly amount of industrial applications. Of course, I strongly disagree with the language there, because, I don't believe people should view it as an assessment, as an investment. And I posted a video about that, but I'll probably revise and further define that in a future video. But its duality is certainly becoming quite apparent as of late. Or as of a decade ago or whatever. As technology grows, silver's use in technology is increasing. But this is from Johan Wiebe, lead metals analyst at GFMS team at Refinitiv, a global financial data provider. If you would want to invest in silver, you should assess the investment on macroeconomic reasons, but also look at the part of demand that represents 65% of the total industrial applications, which look very promising in the coming years. It's used in solar energy and electrical applications. Silver futures settled at $14.50 on Thursday. And of course, this article is a couple days old now, so we won't go over those numbers. But looking at it as a commodity, yeah, you could potentially position yourself to be able to look into the paper markets and maybe invest in that manner. But it's a very, very, kind of a very slight look into some of our movements can be made with the market, as if for things like iron or copper or that type of thing. But there we see the price level over the past few months, where it is. It goes on to say that the strong dollar, talk of tariffs, and a sluggish global growth have all contributed to the decline in silver. And this is Steve Dunn, head of ETFs at Aberdeen Standard Investments. Asset gathering in silver ETFs has been muted, but remains slightly positive for the year. Total global silver supply was forecast to edge up by 0.3% to 998.4 million ounces this year, while physical demand was expected to fall by 3% to 963 million ounces, for a physical surplus of 35.3 million ounces, according to a report from the Silver Institute with data from Refinitiv. The report attributed to the rise of supply and renewed mining output in 2018 after 2 years of declines. But silver has already attracted some increased investment, Weeby says. Data from the U.S. Mint shows sales of 1 ounce 2018 American Silver Eagle bullion coins reached nearly 1.7 million in November, the third highest monthly total so far this year. The Mint announced a temporary sellout of the coins in early September. Based on the current ratio to gold, silver at present would be a good investment, says Weeby. The ratio between the two metals, how many ounces of silver it would take to buy 1 ounce of gold, currently stands at around 85. That's not far off its November 2018 peak at 86.39. Its cheapest point since 1995, says Dunn. Silver continues to underperform gold prices, he says, but it may be setting up to be a leader this year, with many of silver's key drivers still bullish, including rising global manufacturing and industrial production. Inflationary pressures are also on the rise, as evidenced by elevated inflation expectations, rising fiscal spending, and a tighter labor market with rising wages. Futures prices for gold have lost about 5% year to date, and about a third of the loss for silver. Compare with prior years, silver retail buyers have been less interested in accumulating silver, unmotivated in a declining silver price environment, says Peter Spina, president of the chief executive officer of Gold and Silver News and information provider goldseek.com. He points out that the market saw a big chunk of retail silver investors turn to Bitcoin and crypto in the past few years. And I've not talked about that a whole lot, but some people in the comment sections of my videos are talking about it too. And yeah, I think that is part of what's happened in 2017 and some 16. And I think that some of those people just kind of got fed up with the Bitcoin when it started to drop and just really have not made their move back into silver again. Because they haven't really seen much performance there. He says that despite the big fall in silver prices, investors would be unwise to be selling at these levels and chasing the next hot market, Spina says, and I do agree with that. He emphasizes, however, that investors should look at silver with at least 1 or 2 year investment horizon, and warns that silver may see one more big liquidation that takes prices closer to $10. That would be the ultimate buy, he says. So that's interesting. So aside from all of this, he's saying that, or this particular guy, Spina, is saying that we might see prices take a dip closer to $10 an ounce. But again, I have to pause and emphasize this, that I would not look at silver as an investment, even from the commodity side. I think that's risky because, you know, silver, its use as money and how it performs and what it does in times of economic uncertainty is not really something that an investment would do, as it doesn't pay dividends. It's more of a hedge, it's a protection. He goes on to say that once fear and problems emerge from the various bubbles we see around the world, including overvalued equity prices and hundreds of $trillions in debt that the world is swimming in, that will eventually cause the next financial crisis, silver will be one of the havens. So there he just made an argument against him using the word investment. I'd just say be very careful in how that word is thrown around, because it gives you the expectations of performance where there really isn't one for silver in that area or in that way. And it's not to say that silver can't be used for investing in different ways, where silver can become part of the aspect of it within terms of certain coins or using using silver as a means to an end as an investment, but the metal itself is not an investment. But again, that'll probably be covered in a future video. Buying at these prices will look like a no-brainer if that scenario does come to pass. So by and large, the recap of this is that he feels that silver is going to potentially drop to maybe $10 an ounce. I don't think that's going to happen. I would be very surprised if that does happen, especially given the volatility of things happening. Let's say in a perfect scenario, the trade deals get worked out and there's more silver demand and prices go up because of the silver demand, and production can't meet up with demand, you're going to see prices rise. Let's say that the trade deals don't get worked out and there's depressed economic activity, which means that silver's demand may decrease. But on the other hand, some of those people who accumulate bars and the like, you may see an increase in demand on the bars, the rounds, the coin side, and then the prices will either stabilize because of the market and the industrial use of silver, and increase in the bars, coins, and rounds, evening each other out, which means that silver will probably stay stable. Either way, I don't see it dropping much more than the $14 floor that we've seen before. I do believe that's probably a pretty strong floor. I'd be very surprised if at all during 2019 we see the prices go down. I'm of the mind that we're going to see some sort of economic hardship, whether or not be a small recession, a large recession, or something much worse. My guess is going to be somewhere in between there, coming in 2019 or maybe early 2020. We'll find out. It's been a rocky road with the stock market. The markets, this is the second day where it's been relatively stable as of the recording of this video. And we shall see where it goes from here. Post your thoughts below on this article, and what do you think of this interesting? And thanks again to Alan for sending this along to me. Would like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for watching, and encourage you to please rate, comment, and subscribe.